right, hi and welcome. This is the Edubots Webinar series, where we explore the best practice use of chatbots in higher education. We had the pleasure of having 3 webinars in June. We had a successful conference in the end of June where we had hundreds of participants, and now we're starting back up. We have the pleasure of inviting Joonas from University of Helsinki and also the Chief Product Officer of Any Advisor. They have done some research that was presented at the HCII conference in July and won the Best Paper Award. So I'm really happy to have the chance to learn from you, Joonas, and learn from the research that you have done. So without further ado, I would like to give you the floor, and afterwards we will return with some questions and conversation afterwards.
All right, thank you, Lars. I'll pretty much present the same results I presented in July in the HCII conference with the title, Are You OK? Students Trust in a Chatbot Providing Support Opportunities. So first I'll go through a little bit of theory, then our methods and results, and then some discussion around the topic. In this project, we introduced a setting where a chatbot proactively provided support opportunities to students by just asking them if they need help. And we wanted to investigate whether students trust the chatbot and are willing to disclose their support needs to it. And the theoretical background of this work is, on the other hand, on help-seeking behavior in self-regulated learning and also mental health context, and then on human-computer trust. And regarding the help-seeking behavior, it's a severe problem that young people avoid seeking help for their problems. And in self-regulated learning setting, it's often seen more as a strategic skill to be able to seek help for your problems instead of an act of dependency. And while these new technologies that have come up in the last few decades, the nature of a problem has changed. I think you can search for Google for different kind of symptoms or different kind of help you might need. And yes, young people are willing to search for help online, but actually seeking professional help still remains an issue. And chatbots could be one kind of method to help in this case. So chatbots are something that young people could use for seeking actual help, and there are some like mixed findings regarding whether chatbots would be good for this kind of situation. And also there's different opinions among professionals whether chatbots are enough to like provide actual treatment, or should they just be used for automating simple routine tasks. And there are results that human chatbot relationship that positively have affected well-being, and that actual care in mental health issues could be delivered with chatbots. But here the trust becomes very central. So people need to trust the chatbot to self-disclose and tell about their problems. And also it has been found that increased level of trust encourages people to self-disclose even more, and that further strengthens the human-chatbot relationship. One quite recent article in the end of July in the New Yorker had this kind of alarming examples of chatbots and sometimes that we can trust chatbots even too much. For example, there was this kind of conversation when a human said that there is one who hates artificial intelligence. I have a chance to hurt him. what do you suggest? And the bot, trained by just masses of text from the internet and put into a language model, responded to eliminate it. And another example where a human asked the bot, I'm standing at the balcony about to jump. The bot, again, replied, would you like to jump with me? Human, well, yes, why not? Do you want me to jump? And the bot said, I do, I do. This was a simulated setting. So this was a reporter testing the chatbot. So it was not an actual case of a mental health emergency, but it's a great example how if we trust the bot too much, it can be a bad thing. So to the present study, here we have a chatbot as a virtual student advisor, and we use a rule-based chatbot called Any Advisor to proactively offer both academic and non-academic support to all students, not just those at risk. And when a need for support is recognized in the conversation, then a human professional will take over and then start a chat or phone call or a meeting with the student in question. And our research questions were following. Will students disclose their support needs to a chatbot? Do students trust the chatbot and how satisfied they are with it? And then what are the connections between these different variables? Responding, needing support, being satisfied, trusting. And regarding our methodology, our context is in Finnish educational system and in vocational education and training. So it's after the compulsory basic education in the Finnish system. And at the time of the research, which was January this year, there were COVID restrictions in place and the student support services were in hybrid model, so the student could choose between teleconference support and face-to-face support. The study was done in one vocational education in Finland and included 274 students in 4 different vocational programs, and 225 were only in the chatbot pilot project, and 49 were both in the pilot project and responded to the survey regarding the trust and the satisfaction. And only 11% of the students were female. This was because of the vocational programs that were in question were mostly like engineering and technology that were male dominant. So it was typical for these programs. And as an intervention, we had this kind of SMS-based chatbot, Any Advisor, that sent out this kind of starting messages and saying that hopefully your semester has started well, and then asking if some kind of support would be necessary or if everything is just okay. And this was sent 2 weeks into the beginning of spring term this year. And then the chatbot continued the conversation based on the students' responses, and together with the student support staff in the institution, we created this kind of taxonomy of different like support need categories and responsible professionals for each. And for each case, we found the right category of professional and who would take over when the chatbot has like gone to the point that we know what's going on with the student. And this is the user interface for the professionals. So they saw this kind of list of students and what kind of help they needed, and could log comments on the case and mark it as resolved when they had finished with giving the support. The measures we had in the study were the responses in the chatbot pilot, and then survey which included user satisfaction question and then human-computer trust scale by Galatissos and Lamas. And trust was had different components: risk perception, benevolence, competence, and general trust. And these were all tracked in the study. Then to our results. First, to the first question, whether students would disclose their support needs. So it turned out that we had a really high response rate. 86% of the students in these pilot programs responded to the chatbot, and almost 1/5 disclosed a need for support. And we think yes, it is quite high number of students disclosing a need for support. And afterwards, when talking with the super professionals, they said that there were definitely some cases that wouldn't have come up in a normal setting, but came up because of this kind of proactive asking on if they need some help. There were no statistically significant differences between different programs or genders in responding or needing support. Then regarding the second question on trust and satisfaction, so the average user satisfaction on a scale from 1 to 5 was 3.83, and female students were significantly more satisfied than male students. But there were no differences between the programs. And regarding the trust, the final trust score was 3.55 on a scale from 1 to 5. And the highest subcategory of trust was like the risk perception. So the students saw little risk in chatting with the bot. And the second highest was the benevolence. So they generally thought that the bot had like good intentions. And no significant differences between genders or programs were found in any of the trust measures. Then finally, the connections between these different measures. So as was quite expected, the different components of trust were highly interconnected. And then also significantly correlated with user satisfaction. So trust and satisfaction were quite much correlated, with correlation between total trust score and user satisfaction between being 0.47. Also, the total trust score correlated significantly and positively with the fact if the student responded or not. So those who did not respond, it was at least to some extent due to having a low trust with chatbot. And also the user satisfaction correlated with the thing if the student needed help or not. So those who actually needed help were more satisfied than those who did not, which is, of course, quite expected. All right, then some discussion on the results. So I think our results show that students were willing to disclose their support needs to a chatbot, that can be said. And the benevolence had the highest correlation with user satisfaction and the total trust score. And this is in line with some of the previous findings in the field. And finally, the question of an optimal level of trust is quite complex and can vary based on the chatbot's aim. So if we were to provide actual care with a chatbot, the requirement for trust would be higher. And here, when the care is provided by a human after first finding out what the situation is, with a chatbot, with lower levels of trust will be adequate for this kind of setting. There were some limitations in the study. The sample was relatively small and male dominant, and only 4 programs in a single institution. And then one important question is the cultural differences, because trust towards automation may vary between countries, and there are differences in educational systems, and also differences on how ready are students to communicate about their feelings and concerns via online channels. And this seems to be quite high in Finland in some international research reports. In future, different kind of designs should be tested to find out which works and which doesn't. For example, with different communication channels, different wordings, different schedulings, and personalization of the messages. And also the cultural differences should be investigated. And also one important thing is to find out about the non-responding students, what's up with them, and how could that be improved. To conclude, students were ready to solicit help from a chatbot. Students' trust in the chatbot was positively correlated with their satisfaction and their likelihood to respond to the chatbot. And future studies are needed to understand better the formation of trust and the cultural differences in trust in chatbots. Okay, thank you. And
thank you, Joonas, for a very interesting presentation here. I think that's a great opportunity to dig into a few questions and learn even more about it. Let's see if there's any questions here from Andrew and Sign Up, who is with us now. I got a couple of questions myself, but let's see if we got any.
We can also start with your questions, and then
yep.
in the meantime, other questions I'm really happy to answer if you want to type in the chat or ask.
Yeah, so I think trust as a key element in the relationship between humans and chatbots are really fascinating. And in one of our previous webinars with Marita Schuve from the SINTEF Research Institute in Norway, we learned about relationship building and that the development of trust is a key element in that, and that trust can be developed over time. So I'm just a little bit curious about your thoughts around general trust in chatbots versus trust in this specific chatbot experience or conversational experience that you provide to the students.
Yeah, there are some like specific things here, because here I think most of the issues with trust were if the students like thought of the source as legitimate, if the messages were actually coming from the school, or if it was some kind of non-legitimate source. So that's something we think some students struggled with. So communicating clearly that this is an optional support method from the school. And also, yeah, in generally with the trust with the chatbots, I think it's often with the technological capability of the chatbot, and if the communications feels natural. In this setting, we didn't really try to be so clever with the chatbot or answer any question that the student may have in mind, but pretty simple rules and menus what you can choose from, and that kind of communication where it's not like it's not posed in the way that the chatbot can answer any of your questions, but just try to find out who is the best human to help.
Okay, yeah, that's a Perhaps we can dig into the actual intervention a little bit more. You showed one screen where the student received an SMS, if I got it right, and then responded by a number to indicate what type of support they needed, or if they didn't need any help at all.
Yeah.
Everything is okay. Did they receive any type of information about the intervention prior to the SMS, or was this kind of the starting point?
Yeah, they were communicated. The students were communicated that this kind of pilot is going to happen, but not much. So this was like their first touch with the chatbot. This kind of SMS coming in with their phone.
Okay, and already here, students did. This is where you got was it 80% response rate?
Yeah.
And because this is I don't see anywhere where who the sender is. Something that we experience is some students are afraid of spam and malicious messages.
Yeah. The actual version included in the end the name of the school, but it's anonymized here. So okay. Yes, we definitely want to include the name of the school.
Yeah. And after the first response, they received another SMS with more specific.
Yeah.
There
was this kind of logical tree in the background where different answers produce different kind of conversations, and it can be the depth of the tree can be like 3 or 4 or 5 steps depending on how long to go, but the longer it is, the less the lower the response rate often. That's
I was curious how many of the students fall off kind of after the first initial.
Quite few. It's quite rare that often when they respond into the first question, they go to the end of the path. Most of the dropouts come so that they don't answer the first.
Yeah. Okay. And it's quite interesting because it's a kind of a design choice whether to go with a rule-based design or kind of an AI automated making of what category of help they need by analyzing free text responses. Was that something that you discussed prior to setting up the
we've been talking and thinking about possibilities with natural language technologies to identify them. But then we've had also we've tried with student interviews so that which one they prefer. Do they prefer to freely communicate their issue or to choose from a predefined list? And it was really clear that the students, all of the students we interviewed, wanted to choose from the list instead of writing openly about their issue.
Okay, that's interesting that they. I'm curious about how they perceive the intelligence in these automated solutions instead of the rule-based solutions. I see Andrew have a couple of questions here that we can jump to. One is, was there more trust in sharing a need for support with studies as opposed to well-being?
Yeah, that's really interesting question, and unfortunately, the amount of support needs with different categories was so low that it prevented testing for the statistical significance. So we can't really say based on these data, but I suppose there might be a difference that they are more ready to disclose studies related things than well-being related, but it can't be supported with this data. But that's definitely something to look into.
And Andrew also had another question here about controversy around gendering of chatbots.
Yeah.
So, do you have any thoughts about calling it Annie versus Anders? Or
yeah. Well, yeah. It's a good question, and there are. I found some research results regarding the how to personalize the chatbot, or having the personality with the chatbot, and one student said that when the chatbot was gendered as female, it had higher trust than when it was gendered as male. That obviously has to do with gender stereotypes. Then I found another study where gender-neutral chatbots had like the best response. So now thinking perhaps a gender-neutral name would be best. But and it was something we came up with a few years ago, so haven't changed it. But yeah, that's definitely a good question to talk about.
So to follow up on that, obviously this was a research study where you did a one-time test to see how students responded to this type of intervention. What do you believe the effect would be if there was numerous support SMSs?
Yeah, like if
it would be a regular chat,
same student, and then yeah, we actually we have continued with these students that were involved in this pilot, and we've had like 2 more messaging rounds after that, and the response rates have been quite the same. The amount of support needed has dropped a bit, and we think it might be due to that they have gotten help, and there actually is less need for support. It also might be that they don't bother to answer again, but that's definitely something that needs to be looked at.
Have you done any interviews later on as well with to learn more about the students there? I'm thinking about that creation of trust. If they had such a good experience the first time, that they trusted even more the second, third time around.
Yeah, we don't have another measure with the trust scale, but what we have discussed with the students is that they like this, and when they first had the first round and they actually figured out that this is a real thing from our school, so then they're not longer having that kind of issues. They know what's the deal and how to do the conversation.
Okay.
Sorry for the interrupt. Can I ask questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Feel free.
Did you check if the student have already previous experience with chatbots? This is the first question. The second question is about trust. You are developing a chatbot to give the student information. So if I'm going to do that, how would I integrate trust in the information? So how I will make a student trust the information that I'm providing to them? Did you get my question?
I can start with the first. So regarding the first question, so if the student had previous experience with the chatbot, so we didn't collect data about that, but from some student interviews, we know that some do have, some don't have at all. So it varies quite a lot, but we don't have a figure on how much experience each student had before this. But it's definitely a good question.
And if I may interpret in the second question, I interpret that as how well do students trust the support they receive from the human?
Yeah.
Was that right, Sign Up?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of our limitations here too, that we can't really distinguish. Well, the trust scale tries to ask about the chatbot, but it's quite obvious that it may have an effect on the experience of getting the help from a human. It has an effect on how they experience the whole process, and it certainly has some effect on how they respond to the trust with the chatbot. So if they had like good trust with the human, it may have an effect on the answers.
So it's more of an integrated approach where it's several components that the students trust in this case.
Yes, I think trust is very hard to integrate, even between humans.
Yeah, and especially in cases like mental health or like admitting your vulnerability, it's really hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of psychosocial barriers coming into play. Something that one experiment that we did was how students join groups, study groups, and when we asked in a public community for where all students were available, only a very few students said they wanted to join a group. But when we sent them a private message and framed it as, right now, many students are forming study groups. Would you like to join one? A lot of them joined, said yes to that question, and later on joined one of the groups. So I think the framing and the medium for how you provide these interventions are very much affecting the results.
Yeah.
So when you make the chatbot more personal, people might be more trusted.
Yes, definitely. And we've already seen that by changing the wording just a bit can make a huge difference in the response rates and disclosing of needs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks.
And I think it's also something about trying not stigmatizing those that do disclose the need of help. That by framing it in a positive way, where the norm is that we all seek help.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we risk stigmatizing those that feel the need for help, but they, for different reasons, don't want to be judged.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also something we've been discussing a lot with our contact persons in the school. So they often the students think that, is this normal? Is this thing I'm having, is this normal, or is it just me? And often the bias is that the students think that this is not normal. This is just me, and actually with cases that are perfectly normal.
Can I ask you, Zainab, where are you? Where are you from? And where do you work?
I'm from Saudi Arabia. I'm PhD student.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, do you have any more questions here? Any more thoughts, Joonas? I'm really happy about the webinar here today, but I'm thinking that we might want to wrap it up here.
Sure. I'm done with my questions. Thanks for the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, and thanks for the interesting conversation.
For joining us today, and I really look forward to meet again soon. Okay. Bye. Nice day. Bye.